Hello, hedgehogs and horror shows. My name is TV Skyen, and everyone else is doing it. So shut up. I get to do trailer reactions too. That's a thing I get to do. My YouTube channel, piss off. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog new movie trailer is out. Everyone's already talking about it because of course they are. And to give the studio their due, they let the artists do what they probably wanted to do all along and do a decent Sonic character design that actually works for being a thing that's supposed to look like Sonic and not some horrifying mutated monstrosity that crawls into your house at night and eats your dog. It's a vast improvement on the character design side, but also on the animation side, there's been some substantial improvements to the character, which you kind of expect when they just have more time to do it. On the downside, there's a few composition, like, I think the composite was maybe a little bit rushed. Like, look how Sonic looks in the background of this shot here. He kind of looks like he's copy-pasted in with, like, just like a dark gradient laid on top of him. He doesn't look like he completely fits in the scene that he's supposed to be in. And you can kind of see that here as well, where he's like, yeah, he's there, but there's something about him that also feels a little bit not there. And there's probably two reasons for that. First of all, because the character design is so much more cartoony. Like, that's probably the major thing that makes him stand out, because unlike the previous horrifying attempt, this Sonic doesn't look realistic even a little bit. And he's not supposed to. He's supposed to look like a cartoon character who gets transplanted into the real world with all of the problems that comes with that particular concept. Like, which is that the lighting doesn't necessarily always fit, like that his shape language doesn't always completely make sense in the real world, and that's the trade-off that you do. Like, that's why there was probably studio executives in the first version of the movie going, no, make it more realistic, like, make all the compositing go. Like, that's probably a big reason why the first Sonic looks so fucking horrifying, is because the artists were ordered by the executives to chase realism, to make the Sonic look like he's sort of quasi-believably fit into the real world and make the compositing look good. And here they've gone, no, this is a cartoon character. He's a cartoon character in the real world. He's supposed to look like fucking Roger Rabbit. Like, he's supposed to look like he stands out, and he doesn't fit. And that contrasts with stuff like, let's see if we can find a shot of the CGI drone. You can see here, the lighting and the rendering on this thing makes it look much more natural, much more like it belongs in the world in which it exists, whereas with, like, Bright Blue, who hopefully is going to show up in a shot in just a second, like, it's a little bit less natural there, and that's fine. Like, I think that's completely fucking fine. So, let's talk about the character design itself, actually. One thing they avoided doing, which, thank God, is that big, like, that one uni eye that Sonic has in a lot of his designs, where, like, his whole forehead is basically just made up of one large eye, and then he's got two pupils in it, because there's no way to render that in 3D and put him next to real people that wouldn't look fucking horrifying. Like, there's no way to do that. So, he does have to have a separator between his two eyes, but they've made the eyes a lot larger. That's the first thing. Because original Sonic, one of the things that made him look so fucking horrible is that he had these tiny little beady eyes. Like, they were so small. It was wrong. It was terrible. I hated it. And also they've given him gloves. Thank fucking hell they've given him gloves. Like, nobody needs to see Sonic's fingers. Like, that's like, no, we don't need to see his toes either. Why would you do that? Don't give him fingers, give him gloves. There's a reason why the cartoon mascots all wear gloves. Jesus. Because human hands just don't belong on this thing. The other thing that I'm quite interested in is what they've been able to do with his mouth. And that's especially something we can see in the Kung Fu stupid... Yeah, there. See that? Because that's something that the original Sonic, like... We all remember that shot of him screaming, right? Ah! Like, with the human teeth, and the thing is like, oh god, it looks so terrible. But here, because they've gone with a much more cartoony Sonic design, they've also been able to do the cartoony Sonic mouth thing, where the mouth can kind of move freely across the entire lower half of his face as just this opening that kind of transitions. And so long as you show the teeth in there, you can really get away with doing some quite interesting, like some much more extreme expressions in the way that you use the character's mouth. And you can see it here, like how he can go from having that circle hole open on his face there to something that's sort of more clenched and looking kind of badass. And here, you can really see it here, like how they can really just cut open the lower half of his face a little bit. and really move the corners of the mouth up, which again, it helps give him so much cartoony expressiveness. It helps make him look a lot cuter, first of all, and also just a lot more appealing. Like, I still wish they wouldn't have given him those sort of human-like lips. Like, I really wish they would have rendered the lips a little bit less, but it's not as egregious. Like, he also still has the human teeth that everybody hated, but because, like, look at that. Look what they can do with his mouth when he's kind of slapping his face. Blah, 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 blah. That's a lovely little bit of animation that can be done because he finally has a face that allows for cartoony expressions to happen, rather than trying to keep them realistic, which means making them human-like, which means turning him into a horrifying monstrosity that needs to burn and die. So this is just all... I like that little gesture. Like, that little gesture of, like, he raises his lips over his teeth to give the kind of sneer, I can't with that guy. Lovely. And because the eyes are so big, too, like, look how much expression they get out of just... like, moving his eyelids and his eyebrows around. The eyebrows, by the way, are just really fucking well done. Let's see if we can get a close-up shot on his face at some point, because I really want to focus in on what they do with the eyebrows and the eyelids, especially. Because the eyelids, again, on the original Sonic, the eyelids were realistic. You could see, like, they had, like, little nodules on them where the eyelashes were attached. And, like, it was like, oh, too real. Why have you given him real eyes? Sonic shouldn't have real eyes. He should have cartoon eyes. Why? But this... they've been much more restrained. You can see the fold of the eyelid, like over cross of the thing, which gives him that 3D feeling, but no fleshy nodules, no spotty blotches where, like, skin color kind of pokes through, no eyelash nubs and hair sacs and shit on the eyelids. And that, to me, that's a big deal, because I looked at the shot of Sonic from the first trailer, and I could see the lumpy little eyelid things that he had, and it was so awful. Here, they've gone with a much more stylized version. You can see we've got the eye, then we've got the eyelid, and then we've got the eyebrow, which leads completely naturally. Like, you've got this sculpted feeling where it leads completely naturally into the rest of his face. And here you can really see how it works, right? Here you can really see how... this is probably after he says, meow, which is still going to be in the movie, like that terrible line. But here you can really see how they're working with the eyebrows, where they just kind of protrude a portion of his upper face in order to create that deep shadow that creates the eyebrow that lets you give him that. Like, look at that. Look how expressive that little eyebrow ridge can be alongside the rest of his face. This is an appealing, fun-looking character. And yeah, the movie is still gonna be trash for children. Like, it's disposable garbage for children, in the sense that any adult who goes to watch it is gonna be like, okay, well, that was definitely a thing to spend $30 on. Or however much a movie ticket costs in the United States, I don't know. But the kids are gonna be, yeah, it's Sonic, it's fun, yeah! Like, that's good. That's what a Sonic movie should be. Like, that's something I've maintained since the first trailer, is like, it's fine if a Sonic movie isn't great cinema. It's fine. It doesn't need to be anything other than a fun adventure comedy thing for kids where their parents can go and, like, not be completely bored out of their minds the whole time, but, like, still not... it's not a transcendent experience for anyone. And again, wow, this looks better, doesn't it? Like, and they still got the human teeth. Like, that's the thing that I really do want to give them props for. Like, the animators is like, they managed to keep these features that looked absolutely horrifying in the wrong context, and they made them work just by changing the context, by making the context in which they're presented different. And look at that. Like, you can see again, as he starts the scream, and you can see how his mouth opens more and more and more as the scream goes on, and you can see that little exposing of the teeth there, like the lips curling up over the teeth, which again, it's just lovely animation. Like, there's just, you can tell that the animators were told, okay, this was clearly bullshit, let's make it look not terrible this time. And they were given some more time and some more freedom of expression to make the character look silly, to make him look cartoony, and to make his movements exaggerated and broad, which is also necessary because now, instead of the tiny little creepy-ass human hands that he used to have, he has these giant cartoon-gloved, cartoon character hands, and he has this anatomy that requires a greater expressiveness, that requires him to make bigger movements and make more extreme expressions, like, for instance, this. Right? And again, those eyebrows are doing such a good job of selling his expression. And let's talk about Dr. Eggman for a bit. I like Jim Carrey a lot as an actor. First of all, he's a good actor. He's done plenty of really good movies with really great performances that are worth seeing. Second of all, he's also a really good, terrible actor. Which is what he's putting on display as Dr. Robotnik in this movie, which is, he's doing terrible acting. Like, he's hammy, he's completely over the top, there's no sense of, like, naturalness or believability to anything that he does. Like, no movement that he makes ever in any part of this trailer is the least bit, like, he doesn't move like a human would move. Look at this. Like, no one moves like that. Like, no one does this, stands completely still with their whole body and then just kind of moves their head around like that. Like that. This is not a person. This is a ludicrous cartoon character, which makes him the perfect fucking villain for this movie. Because again, this is disposable garbage for children, which is not, I say garbage, it's not garbage. It's fine. It's just a perfectly good little kids movie. That's what it looks like to me. That, like, no, it's not gonna blow anyone's mind. No one's gonna get an Oscar for anything they do in this film. But kids are gonna have fun with it, and that's what matters. And Jim Carrey is playing it perfectly. Like, I think this guy could stand to overact a little bit more, honestly. Like, I don't know why he's in the movie, why this, like, 45-year-old someone, I don't even know who the fuck he is, why he's gonna be Sonic's best friend for this. Like, Sonic should be best friends with some kids. This should be an E.T. thing, where Sonic meets some kid, and they go on adventures together and stuff. And, like, then maybe this guy could be the kid's dad, who's along for the ride, because holy shit, my kid befriended an alien, I have to help them. And maybe it's a thing where the kid is all, like, the dad and the kid need to learn to connect over a shared love of childish things or something. Like, you can do some kind of meta-narrative that makes it more interesting for the adults, but I don't know why the fuck this guy's in the movie. Like, why is he the central human character? I don't know. I've seen nothing in any of the trailers at all to indicate that he's anything other than the most boring straight man in the universe, but okay, fine, whatever. Jim Carrey is a fucking delight, and I love his acting in this trailer. Look at that! That's the right style of acting for a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Like, that's how you're supposed to behave in a Sonic the Hedgehog. You're not supposed to look like some bedraggled sad dad from the fucking Walking Dead or whatever. You're supposed to look like Jim Carrey with a giant mustache. And he's flailing around like a clown because this is a clown movie. And again, love the animation on him now. Like, so much expressiveness in those eyes, and you can see how the eyebrows do so much to kind of go, right, to really sell that, woohoo! Look how cute he is. Like, look how he looks genuinely delighted to be in this movie, and this guy looks like, oh my god, why did I sign up for this? I really fucking need the paycheck to put my kids through college. And I guess that contrast kind of works. Like, that's kind of fun on a visual level. It's just, I don't know why they chose that as the thing. Oh well. And again, like, there's so much, like, look how exaggerated his motions are. How much there's that head bob, and he's moving his little hands around, and he's, like, really behaving like a cartoon character in a way that works for me. And he's got such appealing expressions. Like, look at this! Look how fucking adorable that is. That's good. This movie looks good now. Or rather, Sonic looks good in this movie now. He looks like a really appealing character. Like, I could definitely go watch this movie just to look at Sonic's animation. Just to see, like, what he's like as a character in this movie. Like, there, again, great expressions. That little head tilt, you're right, it was lame. Love the gift shop, though. And that's such good comedic timing, just to have him sit still and be like, am I annoying you? Am I annoying you? Am I annoying? That's good. Like, that's fine. If I was 12, I'd fucking love this. Everything about this would be the best thing I'd ever seen if I was 12. And again, Jim Carrey, like, you can say what you want about, oh, it's cringe and it's stupid and it's over the top and whatever, but it's the right performance for the movie. Like, it's the right performance to be motherfucking Dr. Eggman. Like, what? Did you want fucking Jeremy Irons to come in there with, like, all, like, wounded noble dignity? No! You want a fucking rubber man doing shit like that. Like, moving in a way that just no... Look at the fucking eyebrows! Look what Jim Carrey can do with his face, old rubber man. Yeah. I'm fucking into that. And when he turns into proper Dr. Robotnik by the end of the movie, because I think if I remember right, the thing that happens by the end of the movie is that he gets teleported into Sonic's world, and it blows all the hair off, and all of the hair is blown off his head, and his whole mustache gets blown out, and he really does look like Dr. Eggman the way we remember him. I can see that transformation, and I can see him being a really fucking fun cartoon villain for any future Sonic movie. By the way, there's also just some really solid basic animation going on, especially in the first little scenes here of Sonic in his den. So look at how they do Sonic reading all of the Flash comics really, really quickly. Look how they actually go through that. Because what they actually do is this model of Sonic just sits still. He never moves, and he doesn't have to. What they do instead is they create 2 or 3 other Sonic models that are semi-transparent and which are moving around. Not even that fast, really. Like, you can see, like, if you slow it down, you can see the motions of each of them. But because you have all this, like, all this zooming effect and all this quick succession back and forth blurring, you get the sense that Sonic is moving really quickly back and forth, even though there's a lot of stability in the shots from, like, moment to moment. Like, you always had that blue shape over here, you always had that blue shape over here, you always had the blue shape in the middle. So even though it looks like he's moving super fast and we get this time-lapse feeling going on, it doesn't actually look chaotic and unreadable. You can see what the character is doing. You can follow his motions. And that's the important thing. They do exactly the same thing here, where you can see as he's sipping back and forth between the 2 sides of his ping pong table, you can see it's just the same, it's just 2 character models going through completely ordinary ping pong animation, right? They're just, you can really just see, he's just doing completely standard normal speed ping pong, but because we have the zibbity blue streaks going between the 2 models, you get the sense that, like, there's this, like, that quick back and forth going on. And that's just good animation principles. That's a really good way to show super speed without making it so visually, like, the trouble with super speed always, this is the same thing with Flash movies. Like, every time the Flash is in animation, the problem is, he needs to move so fast that you can't see him, but you also need to be able to see him, because otherwise you're just looking at nothing. And that tension is really hard to get right. And this movie, for my money, has done a good job of it, like, especially with this shit. Because you can see, like, he does it in a 3-frame cycle. Like, he throws, grabs, throws, grabs, throws, and you can see the throw. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And when the footage is moving at 24 frames per second, that moves really quickly, and you really get the sense of him moving at super speed. But again, every motion is readable. Like, you can see that circular, like, happening as he does it, and that's just really good. Like, that's solid animation principle. And I also love that they do make sure that there's a dart that disappears from the bucket every single time. It looks fun. Like, it looks fun, doesn't it? It just looks like good old fun. And Sonic does a little victory dance, because of course he does. He does that canonically in all of his fucking video games too. He does a little victory dance. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying this is going to be like a great movie or some transcendental experience. It's not going to be as good as Detective Pikachu, for example. But this still looks like, yeah, that's the Sonic movie that I would like them to make. That's a Sonic movie that I can get behind and support. And also, I know, so the trailer talks a lot about Sonic's power, his special superpower. If anyone got a hold of it, they could conquer the world. I kind of can't help but feel that maybe Sonic is carrying a Chaos Emerald. Like, maybe that's like they're doing some kind of allusion to the idea of Chaos Emeralds. In the sense that if they do a sequel 2 or 3, I wouldn't make it impossible. Like, if this movie is successful enough that they want to do sequels, I wouldn't bet against Super Sonic showing up in some later version of this. Although, I gotta say, whatever the fuck they do with the next Sonic movie, don't set it in the real world. Don't do it. No, I'm not interested in real world Sonic anymore. One film is plenty. We take Jim Carrey, we put him in Sonic World, and then we do fucking Sonic and Tails fighting robots in Green Hills or whatever. That's the movie that I really want. And again, the super speed being communicated. One model sits down here and just throws things around for no good reason. He just sits there the whole time. And then he has a pillow fight with himself. Like, isn't that kind of... That's fucking fun. That's a good way to use Sonic's, like, hyperactivity and superpowers. There's one of him up here, just kind of with a lampshade on his head. Does he actually pick up a lampshade from somewhere? No, okay. There's one down here in the drawer, just kind of sitting around being silly. There's one up here watching TV, changing all the channels. There's one out here dancing on top of the toilet. Like... And then there's one, of course, dragging toilet paper all over the whole goddamn entire motel room. And just a few more that are just kind of sipping around aimlessly without really doing anything specific. And again, it's just a really good way to animate that. Like, that's good animation. That's just solid. I don't like that for some reason they made Sonic look flirty here. I think people are going to do terrible things with that, but fair enough. So as near as I can tell, the idea is that Sonic has the power to travel between dimensions or something because of his gold ring, which again, yeah, that squares with the games where the gold rings are often like a portal to transition into a bonus level or whatever. Yeah, sure, why not? And we get a globe-trotting little moment. We get the moment in China, of course, because, well, Paramount wants to sell this movie in China. Like, that's why this Chinese wall scene is there, is because they want to sell the film in China. And you can see it here, actually, that Eggman has chased Sonic through the ring portal, and he's just coming with him. Like that. And I can't help but wonder if the ring portals are gonna be, like, individual rings, and then by the end of the movie, Sonic's gonna only have one left, and he can either go home or he can save his friends. And then he's gonna have to make a choice about that. Like, maybe that's gonna be the emotional climax of the thing. But yeah, you know what? This fucking works. This is fine. This is like, yeah, it's dumb and it's silly, and Dr. Eggman, like, Jim Carrey is doing a ridiculous cartoon impression of a person. And that's good. Like, that's, yeah, it's gonna be like a solid 7 out of 10 kids movie that people are gonna enjoy. Maybe it's gonna get like a couple of sequels, like, cause my greatest hope is that this one does well enough that Paramount greenlights a sequel. And then for the sequel, they're gonna go, okay, for the first movie, if we meddled with it, everyone hated it, but if we just let the director do what they actually wanted to do and the artists do what they wanted to do, it turned out okay and people wanted to buy tickets for it. Let's do the Marvel thing and just let the director have some creative control over what they're doing. And then we're gonna get a sequel where Tails is there and we're actually in Sonic's own world, and maybe the human characters show up again because they're doing dimensional travel to fight Dr. Eggman or something. But mostly it's set in Sonic's world, and then by the third movie, that's when we have like Sonic, Amy, Super Sonic, maybe Shadow the Hedgehog. Like, fuck it, why not? Let's have some fucking fun. But like that they kind of actually get to make a Sonic movie with this level of lovely cartoonish character design, with Jim Carrey as an over-the-top ridiculous cartoon Dr. Eggman who I love, and I won't hear a word said against him, and no more boring Mr. Sad Dad from Real World Stan. Like, just, like, where, like, if it does well enough, Paramount will be like, okay, we can let them be a little bit more silly with the next one. That's my hope. That's kind of my dream. That would be good. To have some Sonic movies, like, it's not a big franchise, but it's just like a series of Sonic movies where Sonic does Sonic things. That would be good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be nice? Like, that would be the best possible outcome for a blatant cash grab like this movie obviously is going to be. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons down below, because numbers going up is the reason why YouTube channels are allowed to stay alive these days. If you want to support the channel more directly, I do have a Patreon for that, and I have some tip jars down in the description that you can hit to go give me a one-time tip for being excited for Jim Carrey's Dr. Eggman. For, like, I know he's called Dr. Robotnik. Fuck it, he's Eggman. I know. Like, give me $3 for being excited about Dr. Eggman. I think I deserve that. No, I don't. What else? Right, I have a merchandise store, in case anyone's interested in that. And if you don't want to support me or my channel directly, I completely get it. Like, so many fucking subscription services nowadays, nobody has money enough for everything. The one thing I will say, though, is that for online content creators, especially smaller ones, a single dollar can be the same as literally thousands of views on a video. Like, those tiny donations, even though they don't feel like much, they make much more of a difference than you think. So if you have a content creator whose work you enjoy, especially smaller content creators who are still, like, in the beginning phases of what they're doing, consider supporting them with anything you can whenever you can. Like, if you have an extra dollar at the end of 1 month, like, send it along to someone who does work that you enjoy, because it matters so much more than you think. Anyway, if you haven't enjoyed this video, hit the dislike button down below and I will slowly transform into a horrifying CGI monstrosity version of myself with teeth that look all wrong and eyes that are in the wrong place, and I will crawl into the basement of your house and scream at you every time you go to get your laundry. Thank you very much for watching.